Good morning, everyone. So good to have you on this show. In fact, I think this is probably the first show where I'm feeling so nervous because we have with us four of the top womenpreneurs from across the country, across diverse fields. If I were to just talk about them, I'll tell you I'll need probably half a day for each of them for the kind of accomplishments that they've done. And I'm already inspired just knowing what they've done, but I want to use this opportunity to bring all of them together and learn from all of them. And, so good to have all of you here. Thank you so much for taking time and being with us. I really appreciate you that because I know as a lady, you handle so many things. The corporate side of it is just one aspect of it, small aspect of it. Sometimes I feel men make a big deal out of just managing one job or one business. But I know for you, it's just, you handle it like the back of your hand work. If we can start with helping our audience know what is that you do, your organization does or your initiative does. I think that would be great. Start to for this discussion. Uh, Deepika, can I request you to start with?
Hi everyone. I'm Deepika Trehan. I'm the founder of the Health of Women Forum. We call it the HOW Forum, and also a flagship program on the self-development of women at work called Corporate Diva. Been in business for about 6 years now, and the two core competencies of the work that we do is one, of course, employee well-being, stress management, and various awareness drives within organization, anything to do with well-being and holistic wellness. And in terms of Corporate Diva, something really, really close to my heart. It is a 2-day self-development program for women at work. Of course, we're looking at the 10 pillars of leadership as it being the foundations of the program, but it's more personalized. It's more in terms of developing and, making women segue effectively into senior leadership. And I think leadership is all an inside-out journey. So it focuses a lot on the individual competencies of a woman at work and how she can translate that into leadership qualities in her professional life. So that's a little about the work that we do.
Wonderful. Because also ranked as a top global diversity and inclusion leader by Economic Times now. She's listed among the iconic women creating better place for all by WF. I mean, the list goes on. So glad to have you here on the call, Deepika. Right.
My pleasure. Thank you, Inyan.
Kavita, can we, have you share, please?
Sure. Hi, everybody, and I'm assuming your lockdown phase is going just as you had all imagined it to be. My name is Kavita Rao, and I'm the founder director for a knowledge organization called Learners Route. Learners Route is essentially into corporate training and consulting, and by design, we work largely with the manager and the leadership development forums with corporates. We, as an organization, are headquartered here in Bangalore, and we have our presence in 4 other cities in India, and we work out of 3 other countries outside of India as well. I think one of the biggest milestone moment was when we touched the $1 million mark as an organization. So that's for us is the big, what's actually I would say the starting milestone for us. Up until then, our goals were a little smaller than what we had imagined. So that's about us. And we are into the space of learning and learning in multiple forums. So that's one of the organizations. The other organization that I'm advisor and actively part of is called the Junk Ventures. And Junk Ventures is largely a tech-based organization that makes a lot of things out of junk.
Wonderful. In fact, Learners Route, Kavita's organization, also is the award winner at an Asia Pacific level. She was a Corporate Diva winner. And for a lot of people, $1 million revenue is like the goal, ultimate goal. And when Kavita, you say that, that's your starting point, I really love it. We would really like to see, where you're headed for, and that's a big number there, right? Wonderful. So good to have you on this call. Yeah, wonderful.
Pleasure completely.
Sucharita, it'll be a pleasure listening to you.
Hi, and good day to all of our audience out there. Now, I probably have many more years on this earth, which I have spent compared to all of you. So, done a lot of things and twists and turns in my life. I started my career in advertising and branding, and then moved on to the not-for-profit sector, and then to the technology sector. Worked with an IT startup before I joined NASSCOM to head up the region here and to build it as a competency center. And as part of what I did, I started the Diversity and Inclusion Initiative for the IT industry, the Software Product Initiative to create software products out of India and not be just a services destination. Also, I saw the potential for SMEs, small and medium enterprises, because particularly in that industry and generally in India, the whole focus was on big business and big industries. But the backbone of any economy is small enterprises. So, we during my stay with NASSCOM, we started off an initiative to grow, encourage, and bring more people and grow them, small enterprises, including a mentorship program. Well, during all my different twists and turns, I have been interested in working with different sections of people who are generally overlooked. And one major group, obviously, is women. So, as I said, when I was at NASSCOM, it's very, considered a very exotic and much desired aspirational kind of industry. And but here again, women were not seen. They come, they graduate as engineers, they join, they get married and they leave, or when they start a family, they leave. We don't see them growing. So that's what really made me start that diversity inclusion initiative. And what I really saw, and this also came from my own personal experience, at one point of time, I decided to be a single parent. So suddenly it was like, okay, roti, kapra or makan, that's the priority. How do I pay my children's school fees, rent, etc.? So that's when I saw that for women particularly, financial autonomy and financial independence is fundamental.
Right.
That's what really has focused me in the last 7 years into working on women's entrepreneurship. And I currently am the founder for a platform called Catalyst for Women Entrepreneurship. It's a little over 3 years old, so we are a startup. But it clearly shows that the time has come for women to start up their own enterprises, because being completely organically grown, self-funded, we now have 4,700 women across the country who are on our platform as startups and also existing businesses who want to scale up. So yeah, I'll stop here. I can go on.
Wow, talk about creating an impact, Suchitra. That's like very inspiring. In fact, Sucharita was the senior director for NASSCOM. Her journey in the advertising field includes the biggest names you can think of, and she's handled probably the biggest accounts, biggest brands. Every day, I don't think there's any brand, any day that will pass by without some of the brands that she's handled, coming across your way. And so good to have you on this call. Yeah,
Totally pleasure.
wonderful. Vandana, we would love to hear your story.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think I take immense pride in announcing that I'm a taxi driver, and I'm simply loving it. Okay, I was an investment banker for years together, and today I'm a taxi driver. And I have a group of women with me. We run an organization called Taxi, which is all women drivers driving women and children. And I think this is the best thing I did in life. For all you people who really think you want to do something different, uh, uh, this is me who's just done this, and I'm just beaming in the glow of being a cabbie. So yeah, that's what I do. I run an organization called Taxi. We're all women driving women and children, and I believe that this is our best solution for women and child safety, where we've kind of taken up the stand to make things safer for ourselves. Overall, we've been driving children to schools every single day. We drive about 600 kids to school every day, and tuitions. We do corporate drives. We do airport drives. Right now, we are in a boat where, oh God, I was through this such an emotional stress because my business was at zero, but we picked up, and I'll tell you down the line how we've picked up again, and we've survived again. But yes, this is me. Yeah, can carry on.
Wonderful, Vandana. I mean, I don't think anybody needs an introduction, at least in Bangalore, for taxi. I've been looking at these, taxis, and I've always wondered, who's behind that, and I remember Googling, and to be very honest, I said I want to meet the guy behind that idea, right? And I was it was such a pleasant surprise to see a lady behind that idea, and amazing. In fact, I want to continue with your conversation. See, you started as a banker. I mean, investment banker. You had you were with Standard Chartered, if I remember right. I mean, you had everything going in the normal sense of what most people would think in terms of corporate. You could have actually been there, right? I mean, comfortable life. From outside at least, it looks very glamorous. Um, but what triggered you to think differently and take up something as unique as taxi?
So I think we're all wired to do different things. Okay, we just keep shunning it down and bottling it up. I think I was the biggest loudmouth I was as a school going child itself. I mean, I actually went up in seventh standard and told my principal she doesn't know how to run the school. Okay, so I was that much of a loudmouth. Yeah. So and even before investment banking, I was doing my CA, and I was the typical. If you've seen the program, Jassi koi nahi, you wouldn't talk to your neighbor. I was absolutely like totally nerdy, wouldn't talk to anybody. Okay, so it's been a big change in my personality itself, but there's what I'm saying, the leadership kind of bubbles from within you, which you kind of bottle up. Okay, over a period of time, yes, I was into investment banking, and I've done everything, uh, bank accounts to real estate to the works, but somewhere the calling was very, very different. So there was an incident that happened of an Uber rape in Delhi, and that kind of triggered me as to why there are no women drivers to handle this kind of safety issues. And that's it. It just took that 1 minute, and I said, I'm going to jump into this, and we'll see what happens after this. It's been a beautiful journey, and the biggest, I think, step that I took was became a taxi driver myself, so I could understand what was happening on the ground level, and then make it as a process for more women to come in, make it comfortable for them, design it. So yeah, it's always that trigger. We ourselves bottle it, but it's also like the soda bottle. The more you bottle it, the more the fizz that comes out. So it's time for people to take a call what they want to do in life. This is way out better than any job that I ever did. You know, it's like creating your own path. It's more. It may not be so remunerative as my earlier careers, but it's remunerating more beyond the money, right? And money everybody gets. What about the satisfaction? And that's what I have right now.
That's so interesting. Courage comes in different forms, and I see that actually, and on the other side, I see Deepika's journey. I mean, to take up, stand up for, a section of the society which is kind of ignored, and stand up for a larger cause takes a lot of courage. And you had, life going on very well for you, right? I mean, so, what was your turning point? If you can, go back and look at and things like that. I mean, you could have chosen to stay comfortable in whatever you were doing. And
Yeah.
how did your journey start? And through that initial phases.
Beautiful question. Thanks for bringing that forth. My journey started, and the work that I do today is completely based on personal experience. Growing up, I always visualized myself as an out and out corporate woman. I think right from when I was in second, third grade, I knew that I would be, and that time we used to have briefcases. So I knew I would be carrying that briefcase to the office, suited, booted, logging in, working, logging out, and all of that. And academically, I come from an HR training and development background. And then, as you said as well, life happened, marriage happened, and no regrets there for sure. But what happened was we had to move out of the country. So I had to get onto a forced sabbatical because the organization that I was working for wasn't too keen enough me taking those couple of months. And we had to move abroad, so they weren't comfortable of letting go of me for a couple of months and then having me join back. So, and by the time, in South Africa, when my work visa got spotted and I could actually go out and give interviews, was when I had a baby bump. So I landed up interacting with the HR guys in SA, and we just had a lovely chat because somewhere I knew that looking at the baby bump, looking at the maternity coming up, the job wouldn't be mine. And that turned out to be right. Then, so that got me thinking, even back then, that why is it so? When a man is to be a father, I don't think he comes across things like that where people actually notice his physical appearance or whatever. We're just always talking about potentials and competencies. And why does that, the spec frame change when it comes to women? However, from South Africa, but I kept on working pro bono with the Indian embassies abroad. And from SA, we moved to Moscow, and I had my second child there. And that had a huge, I went through a very, very tough time in terms of my health, almost on the borderline of being here or not being here kind of a thing. So a couple of years down the line, we got back to India, and I was in the worst of health. I had been on a sabbatical for a long time. A complete space of self-doubt, a complete space of loss of identity, a complete space of, say, lack of support system. And that's what picked me up. And, so when we moved to Bangalore, I said, I want to do something where my work travels with me and I can give back in my own way. And I'm sure if I've been through a journey where in terms of wellness, in terms of my own being, my own presence, it's been a challenge, I'm sure there'll be many other women battling the same. And that's where the HOW Forum came into being, where I started with well-being, and well-being being apart from fitness. So basically what I was saying was that, we look a lot on right at the top or really at the starting line, but we're so many of us in the middle spectrum. And where are we going with that? And that's what helped me launch the HOW Forum, where well-being was more holistic and more, encompassed rather than it being just physical workout. And when I interacted with women in corporates and organizations, another thing that pinched me, and of course we have statistics to back that up, is the lack of women in senior leadership.
Right.
And then I did a survey across about 270 women in corporates, understanding what is their sense of self, what are their aspirations, where are the gaps. And once I understood a bit on those gaps is what led me to start my journey with the self-development program called Corporate Diva, which essentially focuses on that, Diva is a mindset. It has nothing to do with your physical appearance as a woman. It has all to do with your own intellect, your own caliber, your own competencies. And I'm sure we all would have come across that women hugely underplay their competencies. They always seek external validation. So this particular program, yes, was tuning them on to embracing senior leadership roles and going through the process of innovative thinking, thought leadership, conflict management, and other things that leadership requires. But leadership is perceived to be very masculine in nature. And what I want to kind of prove a point here is that, and given this scenario, I think we need more of humble leaders out there. We need more of warmth and people understanding out there. And that is an integral part of a woman's DNA, right? Why have we been underplaying that all these years? It is our strength. Why does the world perceive it to be our weakness? And we've got a lot to be blamed for because, as I said, we underplay ourselves. So somewhere working towards getting that inner strength translate outwardly is what Corporate Diva does.
Well, I'm so glad you also talked about a lot about your initiatives and things like that, because otherwise a lot of people tend to think Corporate Diva is all about the event. And of course, today there's an aspirational value to attach to it. I can see that a lot of women I hear saying, "I wish one day I'll qualify as a Corporate Diva," and that's so good.
Yeah, the name itself, Inyan, has been a journey, uphill. There's been plenty and more people coming back to me and saying that, "Arey, ye Diva naam hatao," or that Diva program kind of a thing. But I have nothing to lose, so I'm out there wanting to prove a point that Diva is a mindset. It is how I feel about myself. And when I feel well about myself, confident about myself, body positive about myself, that's what I'm going to be able to impart outwardly as well.
Thanks for detailing it out. In fact, Sucharita, you were talking about, having been in the branding space, you've been with the, in NASCOM. From at least what I know, it could be very limited. Both these places are very, male-dominated domains, right? And you've been in that space for a long time and made a mark in both the places considerably. And then now you've, I think this is your, you've been a multiple serial entrepreneur. And so Sucharita, if we can, talk about how did you get started in your journey? Because, have you always been somebody who, wanted to prove your self, or how has it been, right from the beginning days?
Yeah. I think, what we ultimately end up doing in life has its roots in childhood. And I remember always having been a rebel as a child because my mother was very conventional. And so, I'm the third of four siblings. So my two older brothers could go out to play, come back at any time. But I was told that I had to come back at a particular time. And always this messaging was there that you must learn how to cook because you need to do that later. And then you must get married. So, I grew up being a rebel. And even when she was looking for somebody to marry me off to us, I said to myself, I'm going to choose. If I have to get married, I'll choose who I want to marry, not you. So that's, as I said, things have their roots in one's childhood and childhood experience. And then I did get married. I had my first baby. I was working, which is a very, very demanding job. I would go out in the morning and she might be sleeping. And if I came back late after a shoot, she would be sleeping. And I was like, okay, why did I have this baby if I don't spend any time with her? So that's when I made a shift. I got an opportunity to set up a not-for-profit. That was my first entrepreneurial venture. And the offer came with a beautiful apartment, one room of which was my office. So, this is what really got me focused into looking at, what do women need? Because one of the things that we had there was a crisis center for women, those who were going through crisis, violence, whatever, and they came and got counseled, got supported, etc. So that's been my experience from time to time, which really enhanced the feeling that I had, which ultimately led to what I do today, which is helping women to stand on their own feet, to start up something which they would like to, and to grow it to be successful in their lives. And I would say today, women entrepreneurship is the fastest growing startup segment in the country, in India. And yeah, so that's how it is. And, I see them, here we have 3 examples already we've heard from. Some of them are our members. When women really go after something, they make it happen because they are rooted to the ground. And when they set up something, they make for sustainable businesses. And there's a lot that any entrepreneur has to learn from the way women set up their enterprises and run them. So I'll stop here and back.
So well said. I really am tempted to jump into your question right away, but I want to take a minute here because I want to listen from Kavita because I have had the opportunity to work with Kavita for some time. We were colleagues, and from what I know, Kavita, you come from a very conservative family background, and job was all that I guess was keeping you very happy, and you had to kind of give it a fight to keep up the job itself. And I guess if we were to rewind 15 years back and ask all your ex-colleagues, saying, "Did you ever think that Kavita will be an entrepreneur?" I think a lot of people will be very surprised. But you stood your ground. You've taken to your organization to a completely new level. So, how was your initial days, and what was that trigger point that helped you to move, let go of that secure, corporate job and then take it forward? You were already doing fairly well in corporate as well.
Thank you, Indian. While I come from a conservative background, I think that has been my biggest strength as well. And they were conservative yet quite enterprising. I mean, if I had to even compare, am I 1/10 of what my grandmothers on both sides would have been? I don't think so. The kind of challenges that they have faced. So I think that's where it added value to me, the combination of enterprising plus conservative background. Now, I run a knowledge organization, Indian. And the way I would put entrepreneurship for me was, what you know plus what are you willing to do to succeed? This combination and a balance of these two, it makes a good entrepreneur. So the first point for me is what I know. And being a knowledge worker, it's not easy because today's audience that we deal with are well-read, well-traveled, and at the click of a button, while you have everything available, what is the value that we can add to this? So one of the things that I spent considerable amount of my initial time was learning the art. So I think first 15, 18 years of my work life before I started Learner's Route was spent on knowing the art, the nuances of it. I've spent time on the corporate side, consulting side. I have by design alternated every 5 years. So once I was confident both sides of the table, and being on the other side of the table, I could see what are some of the things that learning organizations are not doing, and I was able to sense that space, and that is the trigger point for me to jump out, because I knew that there was a space available, and there are not many players who have probably thought about it yet. So I had the first move advantage in terms of some of the knowledge programs that we manage at Learners Route. So that has been my trigger. And the also what my corporate training, right, being in corporate teaches you a lot of life lessons as well. That has actually come very handy an entrepreneur. So, I wouldn't say I'm one of those people who got up and got a bright idea and started. No, it's a very thought through. I have let it simmer for quite some time before I actually jumped into this, and that's been my journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kavita, for sharing. I just want to, just ask a common question and let any of you handle this. Um, from what I see, if you just look at statistics, statistics is not the best way to go, but going by that, 95% of organizations don't survive for 5 years, right? I mean, they just wind up within 5 years. And what I see here are four of you who've taken your organizations beyond that mark, or around that mark. And from what I've heard from you over the last 10, 15 minutes is absolutely a lot of promise holding. I really loved what Sucharita was talking about and saying women build sustainable businesses. I love it because I would like to have your thoughts on that. And what and if you can also talk about one or two challenges that you've faced in the last 5 years, and if there's something that you can share with the viewers, how you overcame, that would be a great learning for a lot of people. Anybody can go forward.
So I'd like to take a dig at that, and I
Sure.
think Sarita, your point is very, very on the dot. Okay, um, as women entrepreneurs, and we are in this so-called situation where people come for funding. You have VCs, you have investors, but somewhere as women entrepreneurs, we just get left out. Okay, she talked of sustainability, and this is what I've been screaming all through, right? That um, I through Takshi, we believe very clearly that I better be sustainable first and then scale. It's about getting that bottom. When you dig a building, right, you're going to dig it deep enough for it to grow further. You cannot have a building ready in a day. It can never happen, right? You can have floors ready faster, but then the base has to be done much stronger. And this is something where our thinking as women, and again I'm coming that I think it's the DNA wired into us, that let's make this strong at the base first and then scale up. So as Takshi, we're actually positive, cash positive in 5 years. I'm hoping that I love this 5 year connection of yours. I'm hoping I'll survive after this, after this entire doldrum. Suddenly 5 years doesn't seem comfortable enough. I still feel as much a startup as anything else. But it is about sustainability. Our head is tuned to that. But that is not what the market thinks. Market thinks scale, 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 scale. How can you just scale? Where's the quality going to come if you're going to scale so fast? Right? So this is something which has been in our phase. I hope it changes.
No, I guess along with sustainability is the adaptability of a lady also comes in. So I think although you voiced it, I think taxi is one of the things that will just adapt to the changing needs and beautifully transform into the organization that the world needs. Wonderful. And if you can also talk about one or two challenges that you think you had to face as an entrepreneur, how did you overcome in your journey? That would be great.
So I think the biggest challenge, so earlier I thought only getting women drivers was the challenge. We trained women right from the underprivileged. We trained them for 6 to 8 months in driving, in self-defense, a lot of grooming and confidence. So that was a major challenge of getting somebody who's never sat in a car to actually go out and drive a client. It took a lot. It's like me sitting on the getting a flight to fly right now. No matter what education, I still can't do it. So that life skill thing is a big change. But I think the biggest I always thought that was the worst, but then today when the economic this whole trend down came up, we were literally at zero. I was begging. I mean, I didn't know how to pay my salaries. I was the one who was putting the most emotional and depressing posts on Facebook because I just was emoting out. But in the entire thing, we kind of pivoted to a new business model right now. So early we were only driving for safety, women and child safety. Now we're using the same life skill to drive pregnant women to the hospitals. Medical drives have come up. We have dialysis patients. So it's suddenly it's moved beyond the safety part, but on a very caring part. So each of our drives have the different purpose behind it. We still not alternate cab drivers. I think we've retained that caring portion of the entire business, and it's touchwood. Last 5 days, 6 days, we've got our passes and we are all booked out. We are like totally booked out again. So it's been a breath of fresh air to think differently.
Yeah, in fact, if you may permit, Indian, I'd like to add over there that yes, when you were talking about challenges, Vandana, I so relate to that, a successful business is identified by turnover. And now it all depends on what is your definition of a turnover when you're talking about your business model. For me, impact is my turnover. How many lives am I impacting? Where is the impact traveling? What's the ripple effect of it? How many are coming back? And kind of, how is that entire ecosystem of impact flowing? That's my turnover that I talk about. It's always about the human side of business, which you cannot have tangibility to in terms of number. And like you say that, contentment, when you receive those messages saying that this has been a turning point, when you receive the messages saying that, I was body shamed all my life and I was conscious about this all my life, and which is why when I walked into a meeting room, I had a conscious self and I've let gone of that conscious self. Now, no academic leadership course would give you something like that. So I think it's about how you define the business model. How do you define your turnover and your revenue?
Can I just add something to what both of them said?
Yes.
I think, they underlined a very typical scenario and motivation that we see in women as they start out their own enterprises. It could be for profit, it could be not for profit, but they really are looking beyond the turnover and profitability to see what impact they are making in their chosen field. It could be environment, it could be education, it could be health. But we do see this, that they're looking at impact more than just profitability and turnover. And another thing which I wanted to share, my observation and experience of working with entrepreneurs who are women, is that they are very resilient. It's linked to the sustainability part. During this time that we are going through this, I would say, unprecedented crisis, because the downturn in 2008 and the other things that we have seen in our lifetime, I think we came out of it much faster than all predictions show will happen with COVID.
Yeah.
So I see that our women entrepreneurs are pivoting. They are looking at not just the, how bad it is, how do I, pay my salaries, or my business is zero because I do a catering business. They're looking at what opportunities present themselves and keep seeing that, like one of them who is, as I said, is in catering. She just said, okay, I have to pay my workers. I don't want to let them go. So she started producing meals and distributing them to jobless labor. And
Wow.
the organization stepped up to sponsor her. Similarly, one of our entrepreneurs, she is in the probiotic space. She's got some patented products which she produces probiotics which don't need a cold chain and can withstand temperatures of 2000 degrees centigrade.
Wow.
So she saw an opportunity, and she has now got ICMR clearance to start researching and doing clinical trials for a probiotic which could be a protection for health workers.
Mhm.
So,
Wonderful.
in different ways, I am seeing that women are really, stepping up to what needs to be done, first of all. So many of them have been helping with food, for example, but also other areas of opportunity. One of them is now testing out in hospitals a shared ventilator.
Mm.
So, this is something which I think anybody who is going through this crisis, whether they are in a career, whether they are in business or entrepreneurs, needs to be looking out for as we go through this long drawn out crisis.
Absolutely. In fact, taking forward what I was saying, when you're talking about resilience, Sucharita, it's so very true. The work that I did was, it was very, very offline, because I always, for me, that human connect was very, very important. Come COVID, and believe you me, in less than 10 days, we pivoted online. We launched our online cohort, which had participants from not only just our country, but from across borders as well. And today, within 2 weeks of launching that online cohort, we're already putting together 2 international cohorts of the work that we're doing. So it is just that, it just kind of, if we can be resilient enough to identify opportunity in adversity, it does pay off.
The kind of markets change, but market still remains. So that's probably how we are also looking at it. For us, it's not the traditional standard market, but the markets have changed. Work still is there, and there is enough for everybody out there. And Inian, to answer both your questions together, some organizations don't last beyond 5 years and all of that. I'm going to also associate it with Deepika's point on turnover. One, you'll need to be very good at what you're doing. If it's a man or a woman, it really doesn't matter. Be jolly good at what you're doing, several notches above the average. And don't romanticize failure so much. When people do a startup, they romanticize failure and they say, oh, I've done this. And no, you're in a business because you are bloody well good, better than the others. And you're here to win. So that, I think, is one critical point. And turnover is as important as impact, my friends. If you are creating a good impact, then it means that, it should reflect in the turnover. If your turnover is very good, my friends, it comes year on year because you're also creating an impact. So it is not either or. This is not a specific thing. When you are in business, you need to pay yourself well and pay all the services that you get from others as well. I'm a beneficiary of all three other entrepreneurs out here. So network left, right, and center. And when you are networking, have authentic networking. There are people who have about 2,000, 8,000 people, etc., but then have authentic networking, and those are some of the things that really come handy. Have a big heart. These are some things that make your business go beyond 5 years. Don't be penny wise, and the list goes on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All of you. I have a question. I don't think I can ask in any other forum, and I'm going to ask you. And there's no other better crowd than all four of you who help me with this. I've always seen a lady as somebody who's always handling multiple things, multiple roles. I mean, you run out of hats for the number of roles that you actually play, right? I mean, and it happens so seamlessly, and I mean, hats off to you. I mean, I really don't have words there. I would love to. I don't think there's anybody better than a lady to talk about time management, and I think being busy and everything else is just overhyped. I would really like to have a couple of your thoughts on how do you manage time, in that sense, because that's something that a lot of people seem to be kind of lost with. Anybody, please.
So I'd like to start that Indian multitasking. I think why we're so efficient at it is because, we start with the space of acceptance of our role as a woman, as a mother, as a sister, as a wife, as the plenty roles that we play. So somewhere at the back of our mind, I think our brain is wired in a way where we've segregated, we've made sections for everything. And that's the base we start with. So then we further on plug in, put the entire ecosystem together, and hence come out with an effective time managed system. I don't think it's intentional to manage your time well. Sometimes we, have our set of faux pas as well. But the base of a space of acceptance of your roles, your responsibilities, your deliverables, be it work at home or at home, having an acceptance of that and starting from there and plugging things on, that's something that works for me when I, manage both work and home.
Management for me is directly proportionate to competence, right? Most women manage time, but it is also how competent we are, and I guess women are just better at it.
I want to put a very different point to this. So as much as this word patriarchy, is there in our entire ecosystem, and we are always ramming you guys for patriarchy. Let me be honestly brutal and tell you, this patriarchy has actually helped us in becoming this way, okay? Because we're like so tuned from our childhood. We go get married and we're supposed to please 400 people in a family suddenly. Imagine how much of HR work is there, when you manage 400 people in a family, right? You have to manage your kitchens. So I think from childhood, I'm sorry to say, guys, because of patriarchy only, y'all haven't got trained on it. We women got trained on it. It's actually working to our advantage today. And the disadvantage to a guy, multitasking is ingrained in us, so it's years and years of growing up with that kind of upbringing, which is actually making us more capacitated in a way.
Absolutely. And I think we are also very dutiful, right? As women, maybe it's training, maybe it's DNA. We're very dutiful people. So we don't want to let go of any of our responsibility. And that's where I think we manage a lot more in the same amount of time.
And also, I think the strength of purpose. If your strength of purpose is really, really strong, you will make time for everything to do with it. I mean, I very, very strongly believe in that. If that's my calling, and if I, sometimes I do get messages saying that, how do you manage? Sometimes you're putting something on baking for your kids at home. Sometimes you're putting something on leadership. Then you're doing webinars and you're, conducting these forums and all of that. That's because I'm so passionate about it. And that comes from the strength of my purpose in the work that I do. So I think that also is a huge role player.
Very well said by all of you. The only thing that I would add is that sometimes what I have observed is that women tend to feel guilty about giving time for their business or their professional careers, and they feel that it's taking them away from the family. And that's also the messaging that society, their families maybe are giving them. So it's very important for women particularly to be in touch with what is their mission in life and be comfortable with it. There are many who are very comfortable with, okay, I'm going to be focused on my children and my family, and that's my expression of what I do, and that's my fulfillment. There are others who want to do both, and then they are feeling guilty because they are not giving enough time to family, and they are feeling inadequate because they are not able to give the time required to get ahead in their business. And to them, I always counsel them to say, okay, take a step back, get in touch with what you really want, and then move forward, keeping aside all the guilt and keeping everyone happy and all the rest of it. So,
no, beautifully said, Sucharita. If I may add over there, I think what really gets women into this tight space of, as you said, guilt and all of that, is this superwoman syndrome that we carry with ourselves. I think there is a huge societal perception of women being superwomen. So I don't agree with that. I don't think that pressure should get onto us, where we're trying to prove our worth. Whom are we proving it to? I mean, I'm here attending this webinar. It's a Saturday morning. There are dishes to be done. There is floors to be mopped and all of that. And the family, sorry for my language, but bloody well pitch in. We're in it together. The house is being cleaned for all of us. The dishes are being washed for all of us. So I think delegating, we don't ask. We've got to learn to ask.
Absolutely. I completely echo that. That's part of it. Once you get in touch with what you really want to accomplish, putting in place a structure to make it happen, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, that's a key skill that has to be learned and applied.
I would like to ask one last question. So, if I may request all of you to talk about you can look at it either from, if you were to give your younger self an advice, who's in the early 20s, or if you want to just, keep it more generic and say, hey, for people who are in the younger 20s, what is that you would give as one or two, learnings that you've had in your life, to share with? What would that be?
I would say people in their 20s, we still don't know at 20 where we are all going, okay? But at that age is ripe enough for you to take experience in various fields, go all out, try different jobs. Every single experience will count in where your life gets shaped, okay? So it's a rich time to absorb, to be curious, to try new things. Your risk is much lesser. I mean, if I can take a risk at 40, 20 mein to, you can do what you want to do, so don't get typecasted into only this. You may be an engineer, go try your hand at cooking. Yeah, I mean, do something else, just do it, because even if you 1 year of a different job or a part-time job somewhere, just go ahead and try something else.
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that. Don't over-plan, don't over-structure your life. Give life a chance to live. Going back, it is all like a jigsaw puzzle. Had one piece not been, had the sabbatical not been there, had my health issues not come up, I wouldn't have been doing the work that I'm doing. I wasn't tuned for that. As I mentioned, my tuning was completely different. So yes, have a basic plan of life ahead. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Very importantly, be authentic to your own self.
I just want to say that you don't have to listen to what others are telling you to do. Your parents want you to look at something, your friends are doing something, you have your aspirational role models. So there are many things coming at you. Keep it aside, look at what is it that you want to do and go for it. And nothing in life is permanent. So go for it, give it your 100%. It'll work. And if it doesn't work, life hasn't come to an end. Move on. Try something else. That's all.
Beautiful.
So I was just talking about the jigsaw puzzle that life has. I think one piece here and there, and it won't have, complete. I'm nowhere near completion. But if one piece here and there, it wouldn't have been the thing that has come together for. So I think embracing the things that you like for sure, but also embracing life. If it is not going as per your plans, it definitely has a bigger plan. I wouldn't have landed up being an entrepreneur, and I wouldn't have been landed up, interacting with such wonderful people and somewhere in my own small way impacting lives had I not gone through the downs of where life threw me at. So embracing and acceptance.
Wonderful. Thank you. Kavita?
For me, it's just three things. One is manage your energy very well. This would be my advice to my younger self. Manage your energy appropriately. Second thing I would say is as quickly as possible, find out what you're really good at. Because if you're good at, you're going to like it. It is unlikely that you'll be good at something that you absolutely dislike doing. So it's easy to find out what you're good at, the earlier the better. And for me, the third thing would also be have a big heart. That would be my advice to my younger self. Don't count pennies, have a big heart, refer people without any expectations, support each other. These are some qualities which, not just as an entrepreneur, as an individual goes a very long way. It helps in building individuals. When individuals are built, businesses is just a byproduct.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really want to thank each one of you for taking time to be with us. And I want to tell you, this has been one of the best learning experience for me. And I couldn't have asked for anything better. I would love to host each one of you and get more details on your journey. I'm sure this will be one of the best learning experience for everybody who's going through your panel discussion as an audience. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful...
Inian, just before you end, I think, a lot of the world perceives as women are the ones that step on each other's toes. But I can tell you from the panel here itself, each one of y'all have supported me in my times of need. So Charita, in your own way, had I not attended the CWE session, I wouldn't have been able to connect with Dana. I wouldn't have landed up in Israel on a scholarship had it not been that one moment of truth on your platform. Vandana has hugely supported one of my cohorts of Corporate Diva. Kavita is an ongoing, literally spine behind the work that I do. So it's a beautiful ecosystem. Yes, women do support each other. Women do build each other. And if you needed a testimony, your panel right here is a testimony.
Inian, thank you for this. I know you have, you are a social media influencer by yourself, and not just in India, but across countries. And I know you also personally mentor and coach a number of entrepreneurs yourself. So thanks for hearing our perspectives, and I have attended your other sessions as well, and that they've been quite value adding in our own journey as an entrepreneur. So thank you for the time and getting all of this together as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Time well spent.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Inian.
Thank you, and bye, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.